It's March 23rd, 1925. Florence Scovel Shinn had just finished consulting with a woman who had lost everything. Her husband, her home, her health, her money. All of it gone in exactly 91 days. The woman was weeping in despair, unable to understand how her life had crumbled so quickly. Florence asked her to repeat exactly what she had said 3 months earlier when she still had it all. The woman hesitated, then whispered, "I said I'd rather die than keep living like this." Florence paled. There it was. The word that destroys. Not just any word, but a death sentence disguised as a lament. And the universe, which doesn't distinguish between a request and a complaint, executed the order with surgical precision. Have you ever said something similar? Think carefully. At this very moment, as you listen to these words, your subconscious is scouring your memory. That time you said, "I'm dead tired." Or when you declared, "This is killing me." Or even, "I can't take it anymore." Each of these phrases is a decree. And decrees, Florence discovered, are irrevocable spiritual contracts. Unless you know how to cancel them, there's a reason why certain words carry the power to destroy. Florence spent 20 years documenting cases, and the pattern is always the same. The person utters the forbidden word. In less than 24 hours, something begins to crumble. It might be subtle at first, an unexpected argument, a sudden feeling of unwellness, a small financial loss. But it's just the beginning, because words of destruction function like spiritual viruses. They multiply, they spread, they contaminate every area of your life. And the worst part is, the more you try to fix things, the faster the destruction accelerates. Florence discovered this the hard way. In 1919, she herself uttered one of these words during an argument. She said she'd rather lose everything than give in on a certain point. 48 hours later, a fire consumed all of her manuscripts. Years of work turned to ashes. That's when she understood. The universe is literal, dangerously literal. But here's what no one tells you about Florence. After that incident, she developed a verbal protection system, a set of decrees that function like antidotes. And the most powerful of these, the one she whispered every morning before even opening her eyes, was in Aramaic, the language that Jesus spoke. Abba, Metal Hayav, Father, for life. 3 words. But it's not the words themselves. It's what happens when you pronounce them. Florence discovered that Aramaic vibrates at a specific frequency, 128 hertz, the same frequency as cellular regeneration. When you say these words, every cell in your body realigns. Every destructive thought is neutralized. But there's a catch. You need to pronounce them at the right moment, not just any time. Florence discovered that there's a window of opportunity, the first 3 seconds after waking up, when your conscious mind hasn't yet taken control. It's at this moment that the decree penetrates directly into the subconscious. Now, you must be wondering, what exactly are these words that destroy? Florence cataloged 33. But there are 5 that are particularly dangerous. 5 that you probably use every day without realizing it. The first, "I can't." Seems harmless, doesn't it? But Florence documented 240 cases of people who, after repeating, "I can't," for 3 days straight, lost real physical abilities. A pianist lost their motor coordination. An accountant lost the ability to perform simple calculations. A teacher lost their voice. The universe made literal what they declared. The second forbidden word is even more treacherous. Never. As in, I'll never succeed. It'll never work. I'll never have. Florence discovered that never is a temporal seal. When you say never, you're decreeing an eternal sentence. And the universe, obedient as always, ensures that it's fulfilled. There was a case in 1922. A man said, "I'll never marry someone like her," referring to the type of woman he really loved, but thought was out of his reach. He married 3 times, all unhappy, all with women exactly opposite to what he desired. The decree of never imprisoned him in a cycle of unhappiness that lasted 40 years. The third word is impossible. Florence called this word the murderer of miracles. Every time you say impossible, you close a door in the spiritual realm. And some doors, once closed, require specific rituals to be reopened. Florence had a student, Ashley, who said it was impossible to win back her husband's love. 2 weeks later, he filed for divorce. Not because he didn't love her anymore. The divorce papers, found years later, revealed that he still loved her, but felt an invisible barrier between them. The word impossible had created a real energetic wall. The fourth word destroys in a more subtle way. It's the word late. Too late. Very late. It's already late. When you declare that something is late, you're instructing time to work against you. And time, Florence discovered, is malleable. It accelerates or decelerates according to our decrees. A 50-year-old woman approached Florence saying it was too late to have children. Florence asked her to never repeat those words again. She taught her a decree in Latin. Tempus meum est. My time is now. The woman became pregnant naturally at 52. The doctors couldn't explain it. But the fifth word, the most dangerous of all, is so common that you probably used it today. It's the word fear. I'm afraid. I'm scared. I'm terrified. Florence discovered that fear is an invocation. When you say fear, you're literally inviting what you fear to enter your life. And here's what's truly terrifying. The universe doesn't understand negation when preceded by fear. If you say, "I'm afraid of losing my job," the universe hears, "Summon job loss." If you say, "I'm afraid of getting sick," it hears, "Manifest illness now." Florence documented a case that still sends chills down the spine. A mother constantly repeated that she was afraid of losing her son. The boy was healthy, happy, safe. But she repeated the fear daily. One summer afternoon, the boy disappeared for 3 hours. He was found unharmed. He had just gotten lost in a park. But in those 3 hours, the mother lived exactly what she had invoked with her words. The universe always delivers what we ask for, even when the request is disguised as fear. But Florence didn't stop at identifying the problem. She created what she called the verbal reversal protocol, a set of techniques to cancel destructive words already spoken. And the most powerful of these techniques is something that you can do right now, as you listen to me. First, take a moment to mentally acknowledge each destructive word you've uttered in the last 24 hours. You don't need to recall every single one. Just allow them to surface. They're coming now, aren't they? You can feel them. Now, Florence Scovel Shinn teaches us to do something specific. You're going to pronounce a decree of annulment, but not in English, in ancient Hebrew. Because Hebrew, unlike Aramaic, which regenerates, possesses the power to dissolve, to undo what has been done. The decree is batel umevutal, annulled and cancelled. But here's the secret that Florence Scovel Shinn only shared in person. You need to say it 3 times, but each time facing a different direction. First, looking to the east, where the sun rises. This annuls the past. Then to the west, where the sun sets. This protects the future. And finally, upward. This seals the decree in the spiritual realm. Batel umevutal. Batel umevutal. Batel umevutal. But there's something Florence Scovel Shinn discovered that goes far beyond individual words. It's the deadly combinations. Phrases that, when spoken together, create what she called a perfect storm of destruction. The most dangerous combination? I don't deserve it. 3 words that Florence Scovel Shinn said were like signing a contract with misery. When you say, I don't deserve it, you're instructing every cell in your body, every circumstance in your life, every person around you to confirm that sentence. Florence Scovel Shinn once worked with a young school teacher, let's call her Brittany, who constantly repeated that she didn't deserve her salary, feeling she was paid too much for what she did. Within 6 months, she was laid off. Not for incompetence, but due to budget cuts. But here's the thing. She was the only one laid off among 20 teachers. The universe honored her decree of unworthiness. The second fatal combination is, it never works out for me. Florence Scovel Shinn called this the supreme self-fulfilling prophecy. It's as if you're programming reality to always fail when it comes to you. And the universe, always obedient, ensures that nothing, absolutely nothing, works out. There was a businessman, we'll call him Michael, who sought Florence Scovel Shinn's help back in 1924. He had uttered this phrase after 3 failed business ventures. In the following 5 years, he attempted 27 different ventures. All failed, some in inexplicable ways. A fire here, a flood there, a partner running off with the money. The decree was active, fulfilling itself with mathematical precision. But Florence Scovel Shinn taught him something revolutionary. A reversal decree that needed to be done during an eclipse. Not just any eclipse, the lunar eclipse. Because during the lunar eclipse, Florence Scovel Shinn discovered, spiritual laws become malleable for exactly 18 minutes. It's the only window where an old decree can be completely rewritten. The decree was in Latin, Fortuna mea resurget. My fortune shall rise again. But it had to be pronounced in a specific way, with bare feet touching the earth, hands turned towards the eclipsed moon, and most importantly, with tears in your eyes. Real tears. Because tears, Florence Scovel Shinn discovered, are the seal of authenticity that the universe recognizes. Michael performed the ritual. Within 3 months, he received an unexpected inheritance from a distant relative he didn't even know existed. He used the money to start a new business. This time, it prospered beyond all expectations. But here's something that Florence Scovel Shinn only revealed at the end of her life. There is one word that neutralizes all others. One word that, when pronounced with the correct frequency, dissolves any verbal curse, any destructive decree, any death sentence in disguise. That word is gratitude. But not ordinary gratitude. Florence Scovel Shinn discovered that there's a specific way to pronounce gratitude that activates its maximum power. In Aramaic, Toda Rabba. When you say Toda Rabba, something extraordinary happens. Your energy field expands. Destructive words lose their power. It's as if you create a shield of positive frequency around you. But there's a secret. You need to say, Toda Rabba, for what hasn't happened yet. Give thanks in advance. Florence Scovel. Shinn called this prophetic gratitude. It's when you give thanks for healing before you're healed. Give thanks for abundance before you receive it. Give thanks for the solution before you find it. There's a story Florence Scovel Shinn told only to her closest students. In 1926, she herself was on the brink of financial ruin. She had invested all her savings in publishing her first book, but sales were minimal. Creditors were knocking at the door. She had uttered, in a moment of despair, that she was finished. Realizing what she had done, Florence Scovel Shinn spent the entire night repeating Toda Rabba. She thanked for every future sale of the book. She thanked for every person who would be helped. She thanked until dawn. The next day, an article about her work appeared mysteriously in the New York Times. No one knew who had written it or how it was published. Within a week, all copies of the book were sold. But words of destruction don't operate only individually. Florence Scovel Shinn discovered they are contagious. When you utter a destructive word near other people, especially people who love you, they absorb the frequency. It's like an energetic contamination. That's why Florence Scovel Shinn developed what she called the family cleansing protocol. If someone in your house has uttered destructive words, everyone needs to participate in the cleansing. And the method is fascinating. Everyone must gather in a circle. In the center, a white candle. But not just any candle. It needs to be made of pure beeswax. Because beeswax, Florence Scovel Shinn discovered, vibrates at the same frequency as verbal purification. 144 hertz, the sacred number. Each person in the circle says aloud a destructive word they have uttered, then, immediately, blows towards the flame. Florence Scovel Shinn said that the fire transmutes the negative energy of the word. But here's the crucial part. After blowing, the person must immediately say a word of power. And Florence Scovel Shinn had a specific list of power words for each destructive word. For I can't, the power word is possum. I can, in Latin. For never, the power word is semper, always, in Latin. For impossible, the power word is possibilis est, it is possible, in Latin. For late, the power word is nunc. Now, in Latin. For fear, the power word is fortis sum. I am strong, in Latin. Latin isn't chosen by chance. Florence Scovel Shinn discovered that Latin carries the frequency of authority. When you speak Latin, you're using the language that shaped laws, decrees, and decisions for 2,000 years. The subconscious recognizes this authority and obeys. But there's an even deeper level to this knowledge. Florence Scovel Shinn discovered that certain people are what she called verbal amplifiers. These are individuals whose words carry multiplied power. If you're a verbal amplifier and don't even know it, your destructive words cause damage at a much greater speed and intensity. How do you know if you're an amplifier? Florence Scovel Shinn identified 3 unmistakable signs. First, your predictions. Even casual ones tend to come true. Second, when you praise someone, that person visibly improves. Third, animals and young children are inexplicably drawn to you. If you recognize these 3 signs in yourself, then you are a verbal amplifier, and that means your words. All of them carry accelerated manifestation power for you. Destructive words are especially dangerous, but it also means that your positive declarations are extraordinarily powerful. Florence Scovel Shinn had a special technique for amplifiers. She taught them to create what she called a master decree, a personalized decree, unique to each person, that worked like an energetic signature. This decree when spoken daily, created a field of protection against their own destructive words. To create your master decree, Florence Scovel Shinn used sacred numerology. She added the numbers of the person's birth date until she arrived at a single digit. This number revealed the Hebrew keyword that should be the core of the decree. Each number had its word. 1. Echad, unity. 2. Shnayim, duality. 3. Shalosh, trinity. 4. Arba, stability. 5. Chamesh, transformation. 6. Shesh, harmony. 7. Sheva, perfection. 8. Shmoneh, abundance. 9. Tesha, completion. But here's what Florence Scovel Shinn never published in her books. There's a category of words even more dangerous than all the others. These are what she called hidden sentences. Words that seem positive, but carry destruction in disguise. The first hidden sentence is, "I can handle anything." Seems like strength, doesn't it? Seems like resilience. But Florence Scovel Shinn discovered that when you say that, you're instructing the universe to test your limits. And the universe always accepts the challenge. People who repeated this phrase invariably faced increasingly greater trials, until they broke. The second hidden sentence is even more treacherous. Everything happens for a reason. When said in moments of pain, this phrase creates what Florence Scovel Shinn called consented spiritual abandonment. You're telling the universe that you accept any suffering because it must be divine will. And the universe, interpreting, literally, maintains the suffering. Florence Scovel Shinn counseled a widow who repeated this phrase constantly after losing her husband. 2 years later, she lost her only son in an accident. She kept repeating it. She lost her house in a fire. She kept repeating it. It was only when Florence Scovel Shinn taught her to stop and replace it with an active decree that her life began to rebuild. The substitute decree was, "I co-create with the divine." Subtle change, but fundamental. Instead of accepting passively, you become an active participant in your destiny. The third hidden sentence is, "What will be, will be." Florence Scovel Shinn documented hundreds of cases where this apparent Zen acceptance created existential paralysis. People stopped acting, stopped choosing, stopped creating. They waited passively for fate to decide everything. And fate, without direction, always led to entropy. But the deepest knowledge that Florence Scovel Shinn revealed only on her deathbed was about the most powerful word of all. The word she called the prime word. A word that, when pronounced correctly, rewrites your entire verbal matrix. That word is your own name, but not as you pronounce it normally. Florence Scovel Shinn discovered that every name has a sacred pronunciation, an original vibration that was whispered at the moment of your conception. When you discover and pronounce your name in this original frequency, every destructive decree you've ever spoken is instantly annulled. How do you discover the sacred pronunciation of your name? Florence Scovel Shinn left a method. At midnight, on a new moon night, when the veil between worlds is thinnest, you must perform the following ritual. Light 3 candles, a white one, representing your past, a red one, representing your present, a gold one, representing your future. Place a glass of pure water in the center of the triangle formed by the candles. Water. Florence Scovel Shinn discovered captures and amplifies sound frequencies. Now, begin to whisper your name. But not quickly. Extend each syllable. Start low and gradually raise the tone. At some point, you'll feel a shiver, a vibration that runs down your spine. That's the moment you've found the sacred frequency of your name. When that happens, the water in the center will begin to vibrate visibly. Small waves will form on the surface. That's the confirmation that you found your prime word. From that moment on, whenever you accidentally pronounce a destructive word, simply whisper your name in this sacred frequency 3 times. The destructive word will be instantly neutralized. But Florence Scovel Shinn warned, this knowledge comes with responsibility. Once you know your prime word, you can never claim ignorance again. Every destructive word you pronounce consciously will have tripled power. That's the price of knowledge. There's a story that circulates among Florence Scovel Shinn scholars. In 1930, a desperate woman sought her out. She had lost everything: family, fortune, health. In her pain, she had pronounced the most terrible words. I curse my existence. Florence Scovel Shinn paled. This was the only combination of words she considered almost irreversible. Almost. There was a single method, but it was dangerous. It required the person to face what Florence Scovel Shinn called the tribunal of words. For 3 days and 3 nights, the person had to remain in absolute silence. Not a sound could escape her lips. During this period, every destructive word she had ever spoken would return as a vivid memory. She would relive every moment, feel every consequence. At the end of the 3rd day, at sunrise, she should pronounce a single phrase in Aramaic, Ani mitkadeshet, I sanctify myself. If she survived the process, she would be clean, completely renewed. The woman accepted the challenge. Florence Scovel Shinn accompanied her throughout the process. On the 1st day, the woman cried silently as painful memories surfaced. On the 2nd day, she convulsed with the intensity of the memories. On the 3rd day, a strange peace enveloped her. When the sun rose on the 4th day, and she pronounced Ani mitkadeshet, Florence Scovel Shinn said she saw something extraordinary. A golden glow emanated from the woman's body. Her features softened. Her eyes shone with a light that wasn't there before. In the following months, the woman's life rebuilt itself in inexplicable ways. She reunited with family members she thought were gone forever. She received a job offer that catapulted her to prosperity. She made a full recovery from her health issues. The court of words had not only cleansed her, but transformed her. If you're hearing this now, if you've made it this far, it's no coincidence. Florence Scovel Shinn used to say that knowledge finds those who need it at the exact moment they need it. And if you felt any physical sensation while listening, a chill, a warmth, a pressure in your chest, it's because you've recently spoken a word that needs to be undone. Don't ignore this sign. The universe is trying to warn you. The next 24 hours are crucial. It's the window where you can still reverse the decree before it crystallizes into reality. Now, if this message has touched your soul, if you felt the urgency to protect your words, honor that calling. Use the super thanks button below this video. It's not about the amount. It's about creating an energetic current of gratitude. Every time someone uses super thanks after hearing about Florence Scovel Shinn, a wave of verbal protection spreads. You're not just saying thank you, you're sealing your own protection. Florence Scovel Shinn taught that gratitude expressed in action is 100 times more powerful than gratitude merely felt. When you use super thanks, you're saying to the universe, I choose words of abundance, not scarcity. I decree prosperity, not limitation. And here's something fascinating. Florence Scovel Shinn documented that people who expressed financial gratitude, even a small amount, after learning spiritual knowledge, manifested abundance 3 times faster. It's as if the universe recognizes the gesture and repays it multiplied. But the final knowledge, the most powerful of all, is this: there's a time of day where your words have maximum power. Florence Scovel Shinn called it the verbal golden hour. It's the 60 minutes between 3 and 4 in the morning. During this period, the veil between the conscious and the subconscious is completely dissolved. Any decree spoken at this hour manifests with astonishing speed. That's why Florence Scovel Shinn recommended extreme caution. If you wake up at this time, remain silent. Or, if you must speak, use only words of power. There's a specific decree for the golden hour that Florence Scovel Shinn considered the most powerful of all. Eye, Asher Eye. I am that I am. The same words that God used to introduce himself to Moses. When you speak this during the golden hour, you're aligning your essence with the creative source. But remember Florence Scovel Shinn's warning: words are tools of creation or destruction. There is no middle ground. Every word that comes out of your mouth is building or destroying your future. Choose wisely. And if you've realized that you've already said a destructive word today, don't wait. Right now, where you are, whisper 3 times, Batel umevutal, annulled and cancelled. Then, immediately, say, Toda Rabba, thank you. The future is being written now, word by word, and you, only you, hold the pen in the comments. Write the first word that came to your mind when I mentioned destructive words. Don't think, just write. That word is asking to be transformed, and when you write it consciously, you've already started the process of transmutation. Florence Scovel Shinn used to say, recognizing is the first step to transcending. Your journey of verbal purification starts now. And before I go, I leave you with the final decree of Florence Scovel Shinn. The one she whispered in her last breath. My words are seeds of light. Each sound I emit builds paradises. I speak and worlds are born. I decree, and the universe dances. May your words always be portals to the divine, never prisons for your soul. Amen. So be it. Yeah.